ACORN is under fire, but tonight ACORN's national spokesperson is here to respond. Now, the group works to register low-income voters and is under investigation for voter fraud in at least 13 states. But what exactly is ACORN's relationship with Senator Obama? Governor Palin says this in an email to supporters. ACORN's Political Action Committee has endorsed Barack Obama, and Senator Obama himself has said, "I have been fighting alongside ACORN on issues you care about my entire career." The Obama campaign even paid more than $800,000 to an ACORN affiliate for Get Out the Vote activity. And now we find out that ACORN is suspected of voter registration fraud. But the Obama-Biden Democrats would rather sweep these facts under the rug and use their mainstream media allies to bury the story. But we can't let that happen. We can't allow leftist groups like ACORN to steal this election. Joins us live is Scott Levinson, national spokesperson for ACORN. Welcome, Scott. And let me ask you about Governor Palin's email to find out if you agree with it. First of all, has the ACORN PAC endorsed Senator Obama for president?
Yes, we have.
And has Senator Obama's campaign made any contribution or paid $800,000 or any sum nearly that to any ACORN or ACORN affiliate to get out the vote?
No. $800,000 was paid to CSI, a private organization. A small portion of that contract was paid to ACORN for Get Out the Vote services in the primary.
All right. When you say small portion, what's a small portion of $800,000?
I believe it was $80,000.
Okay. $80,000. All right. Now, here's the problem. And at least in Cuyahoga County, up in Ohio, and this is a state that's neck and neck, 49 Obama, 47 McCain in our polls. They're neck and neck. ACORN has admitted, at least it's been reported to county election officials, that it can't eliminate fraud from its operation. Did ACORN admit that?
No. In fact, this is a real important point. So, one, thank you for having me on, but it's important that the viewers, I think, hear the story of what's actually happened here. We registered nationwide 1.3 million folks over an 18-month period, employing some 13,000 workers during that process. And during that time, on a weekly basis, a bi-weekly basis, we identified and tagged potential problem voter registration forms. At that time, we notify local boards of elections of those problematic forms. What we're hearing about today, Greta, is the accumulation of those forms over an 18-month period that some folks are wrapping in an umbrella of fraud, and that's just not the case. These are forms that we identified, we brought to the local board's attention, and I know that they might be problems and asked for the local boards to identify them. But the real story here is how people registered to vote in this election for the first time in record numbers. Poor folks and inner city folks and young folks registered in record numbers, Greta, and we're kind of proud of that work.
And I understand that, and let's set aside the issue, the allegation of fraud by some, because I know that that would be sort of a knockdown, drag-out fight, and I'm not seeking to have that. But here's the problem: is that when you have Freddie Johnson saying that he registered 73 times, if nothing else, it appears incompetence, inefficiency,
Greta,
but even more than that, it makes the integrity of the system so suspect in such an important election.
You know what would really be suspect? What would really be suspect if a group like ACORN determined that one Freddie Johnson was different than another Freddie Johnson. What's important that the viewers understand is, as a matter of law, ACORN is required to turn over all forms to the local boards of elections. That's a requirement of law. We take a form, Greta, and we give it to the local board, and that's a requirement that we do what we were supposed to.
If you flood a local board with defective registrations, you're going to make it virtually impossible to ferret out problems.
Greta, isn't it more important that 1.3 million folks are excited about this election in ways they never were before? Isn't it important to stress?
Can I tell you, you know what? I'll be the first one to march right alongside you and say each person gets. Stop.
But it's important that we're talking about less than 1%.
You're missing.
I'm sorry.
No, you're missing the point. Is that I'll be the first one to march alongside you. One person, one vote. But when I see And when I see a battleground state, it's hard for me to celebrate all the possibilities if I'm suspicious of the integrity of the process. That's the problem.
But Greta, the important thing is that ACORN showed its due diligence, identified the local officials, and we aggressively recruited new voters to the system. That's an exciting thing.
I got that. That is very exciting, but what's not exciting is someone who registers 73 times, because the problem is it sends to the rest of us a message that the election's going to be a fraud.
That's why we brought it to the local electors' attention. That's why we did that. That's why we did our due diligence.
Well, you've got the problem. You've got the problem in Nevada.
That's why we set up a process to identify. Every problem that you're raising is a problem that we pointed out. That's an important thing for your viewers to know. We were required to turn over forms, Greta.
Scott,
we were required to take in a form and turn it over. That's what we were required to do under law.
Scott, the problem is it's a problem that exists, and we're approaching a November 4th election. And if we still have the problem, there's nothing we can do about it in terms of trying to correct it. And we are on the eve of a very important election.